another group of poems. This is the first of the two shortlisted candidates. Nick's poems take as their starting point the hostage rescue mission at Entebbe International Airport in 1976. The complex geopolitics of that operation resonate in the lifelong self-fashioning of a writer with many allegiances, who fled Uganda for the United Kingdom as a child, but for whom the words exile and migrant are mere static views of something more essential, a process of endless transformation. To the person in perpetual flight, the experience of flight is desperate and sometimes beautiful, a kind of falling that recalls the illusions of Icarus. And that sense of recall, as well as falling, of a moment being reenacted, is central to these expertly controlled dramatic lyrics, which range across history and personal circumstance. In each new situation described, whether it be Operation Thunderbolt or the expulsion of the Bedouin from their villages in Israel's Negev desert, or the painter John Basquiat's wrangling with the art establishment in the 1980s New York, the past is repeated and finds itself raised thereby to the power of myth. Each flight from is also a going to, an encounter with uncertainty that involves the slow unwinding of established identity, just as, to reference the title, a forward spinning low pressure system in the Southern Hemisphere runs backwards north of the equator.
Yes, I'll say some words about Nick Makoha's poetry too, and congratulations again to everyone on the long list, and congratulations to our two shortlisted writers as well. So we were collectively enamored with Nick Makoha's A Low Pressure System, a dramatic sequence exploring the 1976 Entebbe hijacking. Alongside examining the problematic nature of writing about historical events, the many keenly felt versions and points of views, through his taut and lucid poetry, Makoha also weaves in other meaningful strands, such as the myth of Icarus and ekphrastic reactions to Basquiat's paintings, which in turn create an entire and completely human world out of desperate and tragic historical events. Makoha's writing is deft, lyric, and profound. He never reaches for exact answers. Instead, he finds a lyric beauty in earphones, broken rice, graffiti, and a daughter's yellow flowers, unearthing a sheer resonance in the perhaps shared symbols of life, creating a tense and important kind of empathy. And through his subtle writing and world painting, Makoha transports the reader to a place of absolute profundity and consolation. "You are not alone, you have my voice," he writes in a breathtaking moment. Each of his men here has a past, all believers in the conscious world and the world to come. The personal is made political and the political is made personal in these expert and moving poems in which Makoha writes, "I had a small non-speaking part, but his is a part, a point of view which swells via urgency and undeniable craft to that of poet." And I think Nick Makoha is going to read for us.
Thank you very much. That was very moving. I was taken away. Thank you for your kind words, both of you. I'm going to read from the beginning of my submission, title included, and go about halfway so you can follow me. A low pressure system. There was a silence. Douglas Preston, The Codex, 1142. In most versions of this story, we begin at an airport lounge in Athens. Each of his men here has a past. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, the IDF sniper, and the expat are all plausible targets, all believers in the conscious world and the world to come, but they have no covenant. Codex 1. In this story of falling, a cigarette is brought back to life. The body inhales. The sky is full of night. Soon it will be dry season and the hills will rust, but tonight, the night keeps moving the way that birds do towards migration. What does living do for any of us? The winds have found some clouds to play with as trees rehearse the gesture of surrender. Do birds think that cities are our version of the natural world? Have you seen a city on fire? Flames throwing themselves at buildings, the ways that the sea throws itself on the rocks. The furnace is the city's costume. This world is a desperate element. I suffer the shame of asking, what happens in the voids? What shape does the soil take when the roots vanish? The visible making itself known by the invisible. Rain falls through the trees as the dark brick of our old lives is the pitch of this moment. The long duration of a split second. After forensic architecture's work relating to Al-Quran's killing, al-Hiran 2017, because all language lacks fluency, in this pretense, the sky itself was a wilderness. A camera with its crooked frame was the first eye searching for answers. In this margin of the day, a helicopter unsure of how to get out of the world glided down through cloud cover and became a second infrared eye. Its purpose, to separate people from trees and hills, still warm with the day's heat from the shadows. Men dressed for war used torches like fireflies to follow the echoes. Inside a whisper, revenge. Inside revenge, a language. Inside the language, an algorithm of how to turn a collage of startling images into a village of some importance. A car horn shrieked like an unfed child to introduce the theory of infinite endings. Within that horn, an eruption, and within that eruption, another. Then 14 seconds of darkness before the camera reproduced men in the motion of battle. He who conforms to the loss of the land must be the right's enemy. It is easier to divide the world this way. A disobedient tribe explained their extinction in the desert. To begin the story again, what was once a village on the rock, they will call it Jerusalem. But who discovered you? Outside the film frame, a woman's voice cries after 4 gunshots made visible by a cloud of hot air invent a new kind of time. Paradise and violence are the same road. One cannot exist without the other. Both gladly accept loss. A bullet has found its currency spiraling upwards towards a moving vehicle whose engine has died. Getting away is what a road is for. A car door opened to the wilderness. And so this hill became a portrait of death. A fatal bullet turned the driver the shape of someone else as flowers are blamed, as the flowers blamed themselves. AMS, Amsterdam Airport. We are falling to earth. The headrest TV display is a jukebox, like pins itself to the plane. My earphones drown an audience of men who have turned my homeland into a theater. Their mouths are full of salt and lime, swing through my body weight in tequila. A low pressure system at the level of my abdomen watches them from my cabin window. Ryan Gosling is at the keys. My hands want to be at their throats. They are gods in a city of stars. No, wait, I am a city watching 3 men play God. No, I am God watching 3 men play with my city. Last one. Codex 2. Apologies for the cough. When my father lost his job, it was a way to make the other thing a beginning. The sit-ins and marches with helicopters twitching at 20 frames a second. My father had been many things, not just the face behind a thought traveling the free world. Once, he was a glass mountain. Once, he was a catastrophe separating day from night. Once, when we were on the edge of town and he could no longer keep the silence, he used the same voice he spoke with to cry. I had a small, non-speaking part. Thank you.